This is Jesse from Yonder Lies with an update on the mountain goat removal situation in Grand Teton National Park. If you haven't listened to episode 4, Stranded Sheep, Gutted Goats, and Flying Firing Squads, I suggest you listen to that before continuing here, otherwise you might be a little lost. So just as we were wrapping up episode 4 last Friday, February 21st, the National Park Service, against the will of the state of Wyoming, decided that it was going to follow through with the plan to pursue the rapid lethal removal of mountain goats from Grand Teton National Park using helicopter-based gunning tactics. Later that same day, in an effort to stop the slaughter, which was seen as going against Wyoming values, Governor of Wyoming, Mark Gordon, wrote a letter to Acting Superintendent of Grand Teton National Park, Gopal Nujabale, in which Gordon expressed his, quote, profound disappointment that the National Park Service chose to act unilaterally in executing mountain goats over the state of Wyoming's objections. He said he is simply at a loss for why the Park Service would ignore an opportunity to work towards a solution upon which we could both agree, and that he can only take it as an expression of their disregard for neighbors and of the respect they apparently do not have for Wyoming and our professionals. Gordon concluded by saying that he will, quote, remember their blatant disregard for the advice of Wyoming's Game and Fish Department. Again, the state of Wyoming doesn't oppose the park's removal of the mountain goats, just the arguably inhumane means of lethal removal by helicopter gunning. Worried that the governor's pleas were not enough, in a last-ditch effort later on Friday, Wyoming Game and Fish Director Brian Nesvik met with Acting Superintendent Nujabale to try to stop the gunning, but to no avail. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, rifle-rigged helicopters flew into the park and gunned down as many mountain goats as they could. On Monday, however, when the conflict between the National Park Service and the state of Wyoming made its way to Washington, D.C., the U.S. Secretary of the Interior stepped in. Moved by Governor Gordon's strongly worded letter to the Park Service, on Monday, Secretary of the Interior David Bernhardt ordered Grand Teton National Park to, quote, stand down and not fly the helicopters. Bernhardt has this authority, of course, because the National Park Service is a part of the Department of the Interior. According to Grand Teton National Park spokeswoman Denise German, flights were only performing lethal activities on Friday, but that the number of goats would not be released to the state of Wyoming or to the public until a later date. So, as of today, Tuesday, February 25th, an unknown number of mountain goats have been killed in Grand Teton National Park. And although nearly everyone agrees on the ends, that mountain goats should be removed, and removed in a relatively timely fashion, the disagreement over means has now roped in the Governor of Wyoming and the Secretary of the Interior. For better and for worse, the conflict is now being covered by the Boston Globe, Washington Post, and USA Today, which will no doubt throw fuel on the fire of ethical dispute. So, in this case, we now have a federal authority, the Secretary of the Interior, advocating for the demands of a state actor, Wyoming Game and Fish, against the statutory obligations of a federal actor, the National Park Service. And as we argue about all this, the goats and the sheep are still just up there, working hard to tend the land.